Hello and welcome to Indie Incursion, an indie games podcast. This week we're going to have a little bit different. We're not actually going to be doing our standard covering news, hopping into Kickstarter, doing some news cram stuff. We are actually going to talk about E3 in general. For the first little bit, we're going to talk about all the press conferences we liked, what we thought of them, games we like to be shown. This is where we're going to talk about games that are not indie games, and then myself, Vaughn Hyde, one of your hosts, and my illustrious co-host, the Big Josh Boy, we are going to be doing a deep dive into Kind of Funny Game Showcase and Devolver, mostly because they pretty much had the most indie games coverage of any of them.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to do this.
I mean, kind of. Actually, what's funny about that is now, it's becoming a lot more popular in other areas, especially Microsoft, but I think that's really because Microsoft doesn't have anything of their own at this point.
And they just keep buying fucking studios, fucking Double Fine. God damn it.
Yeah, I'm actually okay with that one. But
I'm actually very okay with it too. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, but it's interesting because obviously those are the two obvious just indie game one, but a lot of the platforms in all conferences had at least a little bit of something. I mean, except for maybe Square Enix and Bethesda, but the Microsoft, the Nintendo one, they had a good chunk of little indie games nestled in there. I don't know what nestled means.
There's a good chunk, and then there's fucking 60.
Yeah. I mean,
there's two sparse between your 5 big announcements, and then there's just an entire 45 minutes to an hour of indie games.
Well, which one are we going to cover?
I would normally think we'd talk about the 60, but you never know. On this podcast, we generally say 3, and then we just got the rest. The rest are just there in a wrap-up, so never know.
Well, we'll see. Let's roll with it.
So what have you been playing this week?
So I'm going to go off on a tangent about something that's not indie. I finally finished The Last of Us. This was my first time running through it. I got through The Last of Us, the full story, and the Left Behind DLC. Pretty damn good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. What the fuck at the ending part, though? It's kind of fucked.
Do you think it's cool to spoil the end of it by now? I mean, it's been out for a long time.
You'd think, but there's people like me who just played it, so I don't know. But I was pretty upset. I was like,
that's fair.
Come on, man. Why you got to do that?
Really? You were upset by that? I would have made that choice.
No, you're...
I was like, fuck the world, dude. It sucks ass anyway.
Fucking selfish piece of shit. Anyway, we won't spoil it, but yeah, he's a big old jerk face. Anyway,
you're a bitch.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? At least humanity would be saved in my world.
Yeah, we're about to get it as a knockout. We're gonna get into a brawl over the ending of The Last of Us here. Man, dude, this might be the end of the Indie Incursion podcast.
This is what broke us up.
Yeah, we were just starting to really gain some traction, and then Josh played The Last of Us and became a bitch.
Yep, it would be a mainstream game that would break the Indie Games podcast, wouldn't it?
I didn't even think about the irony.
I know, it's pretty funny, actually. Honestly, that's really all I've been playing other than a little bit of Borderlands, which also isn't indie. So nothing from that side. I've been too busy. I've just been watching E3 and writing articles and editing articles. I mean, E3 is a pretty busy time, and all of my time is just sunk into seeing all of those new juicy games.
Yeah, you guys did some pretty awesome stuff over at Parallax for E3 coverage. I mean, it didn't seem like there were very many of you doing it. So for the amount of people that there were doing it, you guys had a decent amount of coverage. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And we also did live reacts for a number of the actual conferences on Twitch. I was actually part of the Microsoft one. I couldn't attend the others, but we had a good amount of people covering those as well. It was pretty fun. One of the ones, one of my favorite moments was we were watching the Microsoft Xbox one, and it was the Blair Witch Project game. And I was like, first off, why the hell are they doing that? But second off, they were playing the clip and we were like watching it, and the guy pulled up the camera, and like right on the stream I was like, what is this, a fucking Blair Witch Project game? Like, why would they do that? Like, as a joke, I was like, there's no way. And then when it like the actual symbol came up, all of us were like, oh no way, is it? And it showed the actual title, and I was like, oh my god, how did I get that?
Turns out we actually are Psychic Boys. It was a joke on Twitter, but now it's a reality.
That's true, Psychic Boys. I don't know, man. Honestly, why? But I was so hyped for the fact that I even got it. But yeah, there's a lot of good content out there from Parallax. Is basically the cliff notes of that.
That's awesome. I didn't actually know you guys did the live like reacts.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Nice. That's awesome. For me, this week I've just been playing The Witcher 3. That's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you gonna pick it up for the Switch?
No, never. I'm not going to. That's a bad
down.
Idea.
Honestly,
okay.
What's kind of funny is I might pick it up just because I actually have the game. This is one of the one rare times where I actually might buy a game a second time, is just because I played it and then just dropped it. And I feel like it's because it's just too long and too much time sink. And I feel like it's easier to play games like that on the Switch.
See, that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. So I'm like, hey, I need to stop buying video games for a while because I have a problem. Of course, I made that. I was like, I'm going to stop buying video games.
Yeah, right.
Then less than a week later, they announced a physical edition of Psychonauts, and I spent like $75 on it. So,
oh my god.
Yeah, broke that immediately. But on the other hand, I've spent a lot less, which is nice. I stopped buying as many video games, so now I'm just trying to work through my backlog. So I was like, you know what? I need to actually beat The Witcher 3. And since I bought the Complete Edition does not transfer your save from the just standard Witcher 3 edition, or at least it did when I originally bought it. And I still don't think it does because I have the save on my PlayStation 4. Cool thing though, it does have its own trophy list. So if you were like a platinum whore, you know what I mean? You could actually get the platinum for the standard and the platinum for the Complete Edition, from what I understand, because I popped a trophy the other day and I was like, I literally already have this trophy. I don't know how this just happened.
I don't like that statement. I'm not down for pop the trophy. It just doesn't sound right to me.
It does sound a little bit sexual. But yeah, I'm trying to work on my backlog. I'm going to play The Witcher. I think after that, I was going to play Ni no Kuni, but then they announced that remaster, which I'm going to tell you right now, I feel like I didn't get this across that well on Twitter because I had a limited amount of characters and I was only on a 14-minute break at work. That game did not need to be remastered. It could be ported. Porting makes so much sense because that game is so beautiful and it just makes sense. Like, it needs to be on more consoles for people to experience it. So porting it to like PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, whatever, that totally makes sense. A remaster doesn't necessarily make sense because in my mind it kind of looks the same. But I'll have to wait for like Digital Foundry to do a side-by-side when it eventually comes out.
Right.
To see if it's like a big improvement. I'm gonna buy it either way. I don't give a shit.
I'm sure you
That
will.
game's awesome.
I've never played it, so I can't say.
Well, now you have a chance. It's gonna come to PS4. You don't even have PlayStation Plus, so you don't gotta worry about it, dude. You buy it, no online features. You just play the game, dude. What else are you doing with your time? Or you could also buy it on your Nintendo Switch. That's the thing now.
Yeah, see, I'll probably do that instead. But
yeah, that's probably the better option for you.
But there's also a million games coming out.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot.
Or at least 60 plus.
Or you could just play the remaster of a game that came out like 5 years ago. I mean, really, your priorities, I know you should just be playing the remaster. That just makes more sense, dude. Who needs to keep up with the most recent trends?
As a person who's trying to do reviews on a website for games, probably me. But then again, I guess it could be a review for the remastered version.
Yeah.
The dilemma.
What's up, big boy? You freaking review the old game. That's what I say. Retrospective reviews.
Well, I mean, is that a retrospective though? That's kind of like
no.
Yeah, that's not.
No.
That would be if I actually played. I mean, I guess I could play the original and then play the remastered and side by side.
I own
compare
2
them.
different copies for PS3. If you have a PS3, I will mail you one. But then you have to mail it back to me, and hopefully nothing happens in the bit between.
That sounds like way too much work, buddy.
You're like, I mean, I could just go buy it myself. It's like $5.
But why not put you through all that trouble?
So we're already talking about E3. Bandai Namco announced Ni no Kuni remaster coming to all sorts of cool consoles. What did you think about E3? Just broad strokes, what did you think about E3? We'll talk about the other conferences in just a sec. How have you felt so far?
So from an E3 perspective, I enjoyed it. I think it was a little lackluster, honestly. I think this year isn't really like PlayStation definitely picked a good year to kind of just take a step back and leave the scene, because honestly, this is at more of an end of the generation. Like, there really wasn't a lot of news from a new console perspective, which gets people like really hyped up. A lot of games.
What are you talking about, dude? They had that sweet ass reveal for Scarlet, bro.
Oh yeah, that one guy who was just like, yeah, we put an SD in it. It's real fast. We're not gonna give you any details, but no load times. Like,
virtual RAM 4 times faster, 4 times better. It's like, okay.
It's like, what does that mean? What does that really mean? You're just shouting mumbo jumbo at us. But like, yeah, like I want the actual deep dive, the details of that, and I'm not going to get that until next year, which is fine. I mean, like, the E3 isn't only about consoles, it's also about games, and there were some pretty hyped up games. Like, I definitely enjoyed like the new Doom coming out. That looks really cool. Cyberpunk looks great, but there really wasn't anything new shown other than Keanu Reeves, which was pretty crazy, but like, it's not really a game.
I mean, you got a better cinematic trailer. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, but
featuring Keanu Reeves. So that's like the two put together. It's like mashed up perfectly.
I know.
It's like
so
Play-Doh.
I forget who I was listening to. I think it might have been Damon Hatfield, where he was like, or someone was talking about it, and he was like, I'm already on board with the game. Like, I don't need to see another just trailer of the game. Like, which was fine because they also gave the release date, so I was like, cool, that's what I wanted to know. Which I'm actually surprised, a lot of games that are coming out, like, they're coming out pretty quick. Like, I thought Cyberpunk was going to be a lot later. I thought it was going to be either 2021 or the end of 2020. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it's coming out in like Q1, right? Like
yeah,
March
I think it was March. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it was March. But a lot of it, honestly, it seems really cool, but man, there's something that I think all of the the conferences, like all the different teams that are doing conferences, could learn from Nintendo. I might be sounding a little biased because I am a Nintendo fan, and obviously I like their games, but there's also a lot of games that were kind of crap in their Direct. But at the same time, like, I think they did such a good job of how you should pace conferences. Like, they constantly teetered back and forth between a big release of their flagship and then going to a more indie or a more low-key, title. So they would go from Luigi's Mansion to like the Contra thing to the, like, back and forth of a lot of different pieces. I don't remember the actual order, but I remember it was just big thing, small thing, big thing, small thing. So it kept that like wave of momentum. With like one of the conferences, like Square had the huge thing from Final Fantasy VII, the remake. They started out so hard, and you're like, wow, this is awesome. It looks great. And I'm not really a Final Fantasy fan. Like, I enjoyed 10, but that's really the only one I played. And the others, I'm kind of like, they're okay, but they're just not my style. So it wasn't really anything for me, but you can obviously tell there was a lot of hype from that perspective, and it was a good move on their part. But then they just like kept going with so much that just felt kind of like, I mean, it's just a bunch of new ports of the same Final Fantasy games. Like, I don't know, it was just too much. And in a lot of it, I feel like the pacing from someone like Nintendo was much better. I would have liked to see a lot more of that from the other companies. Xbox was good, but I don't think they really blew it out of the park because most of it wasn't really their stuff. It was more of, here's a bunch of cool looking games and also very brief details or lack thereof about what Xbox is doing. The Game Pass thing, really cool, seems interesting, but like there was no talk about xCloud other than, hey, xCloud is a thing. And then, which, yeah, we know. And then also them, cool. I know. And then them also going like, Project Scarlet. Like, yeah, we've heard the name, and them just being like, yep, there's a lot of cool specs in it. You'll see stuff later. So it was good, but I don't know. I feel like they should have pushed harder on the Xbox flagship. But then again, at the same time, I said this on the reveal for Parallax, they also really can't because they're in a weird state where it's the end of a console generation, so they're probably not going to have anything for that specifically. They're probably looking more towards the next stuff. And also, they just acquired a bunch of companies, so they're not going to make games right off the bat. So, I don't know.
Dude.
What?
Speaking of Microsoft's conference, how fucking dare they juke me out and not give me a Psychonauts 2 release date?
Oh, yeah.
I'm so fucking pissed about it. And then, in the Kind of Funny Game Showcase, Tim Schafer is there, and nothing happens. I was like, you guys just fucking killed me. It was just
fucking
off to me.
It was hilarious that he talked about what does indie game mean to you?
Oh, that was absolutely funny. Like, everything in it was so funny. But I was like, oh my God. I mean, okay, so on Microsoft's behalf, you could say that they didn't show a lot of their own stuff. In a way, they did. They showed a decent amount of their own stuff from studios they've recently acquired.
Right.
Like, they're like, oh, Outer Worlds. Yeah, technically that's ours now. Like, we bought like the studio, but the game's coming out multi-platform.
That's my concern with Microsoft as a company is I feel like they don't. Well, I don't want to say that because obviously I'm in no way to say, but I feel like they don't know what they're doing from a marketing perspective to get the Xbox brand name out. Because like when I think of an Xbox game, the only ones I ever think about are like Halo, Gears of War, and that's because primarily those are the Xbox games that were always stuck on there and you could never play on any other console. But now Xbox is doing this thing where it's like everybody should play everything, and they're being all buddy-buddy with PC and every other console and trying to get Game Pass on like anything that, you know, has a monitor or a screen. So it's like, okay, that's great, but it detracts from it being Xbox. Like,
yeah, it detracts from the value of your console. They're not exclusive.
Yeah, so like that's like you exemplified that point pretty much right off the bat because I said there's nothing there, and you're like, no, there is, but I'm not gonna associate those with them.
You're not gonna play it on that console.
Yeah, well, it's not even that I'm not gonna play it on that console. I'm not gonna associate it with that console at all because for me, it's on so many other products that it's not an Xbox game. It's a PC game for me.
Yeah, like a lot of people are saying, like recently, it's either been a joke or like somewhat serious. People are like, hey, when is like Xbox just going to become third party? Like when did they just start producing stuff for everybody? Like they've got, they have their own console, but it's not their main priority. Their main priority is everything else, which in a way, like their services and their games are really what make them money. Consoles don't make any money.
No,
they lose money on consoles.
It's very true.
So this might be fiscally responsible for them. Like you're gonna buy the game, no matter what, you're gonna buy the game. Sure, they're gonna make less money if you purchase it on a different console, but in a way, they're still making more money than they would have before. But I don't know. I'm not like any economy professor. I'm not a businessman. I don't know how any of this works.
Yeah.
I just know that the amount of money you make on software is much more than you make on hardware.
Yeah. No, and I get that. It's just also at the same time where if they're doing that, like I guess that makes sense because you can buy it on PC and it would still be going towards Microsoft, like revenue.
I do have a question. So I don't know exactly how this works. Do you have to purchase it like through the Microsoft? So let's say you want to purchase Gears of War 4 or like Gears of War 5. Do you have to purchase these on like a Microsoft launcher on your PC, or can you purchase them through like some sort of third party like Steam?
I mean, it depends because like I don't know realistically because this is a very new framework. If you're talking about like the Game Pass side of
I'm talking about like Play Anywhere, where they have like, you've got Gears of War 4, you can play it on PC. I'm wondering if you can purchase it on PC and you also have it on Xbox One, or do you have to purchase it like online through the Microsoft Store and then you have an additional launcher to run it through on your PC?
I mean, are you able to? I don't think so.
Yeah, you can play Gears like 4 and you can play their first party titles on PC. through Play Anywhere, from what I understand. But
interesting. See,
I don't know how.
Yeah, see, I only know of the Game Pass side of things, of being able to get from that angle. And it also depends, because if it's something like an Outer Worlds, like it'll be a different medium. Because I believe Outer Worlds is going to be an Epic Store exclusive at first from a PC perspective. So I think it really depends on where it's coming from. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that, because I haven't really thought about it, just because to be honest, like the Gears of War and Halo franchises have never really been my thing, so I've never really cared too much.
Yeah, I feel like Outer Worlds, it does have a listing on Steam. So
yeah,
I don't know if it's going to be an Epic Game Store exclusive.
It will be for the first like 6 months or something like that.
Oh, okay. I think most people that are actually, like, most games commentators, like how we're talking about games and everything, however, amateur, not amateur, whatever, I think most of us don't understand business. I honestly think Microsoft is looking ahead. They're playing the long game. Like, hoping that your console will do great that's like the immediate. That's what's happening right now. They're worried about the next 5 years of their console. Instead, what Microsoft is doing is they're worried about the partnerships that they're going to make. They're worried about building out a platform that transcends like a physical box itself. Mm-hmm. So I honestly think they're playing the much smarter game than worried about what's happening with their console. Like their consoles will sell to the people who care about them, especially because they will put out exclusives like the next Gears. They'll put out the next Halo. They will actually put out first-party titles that are exclusive to these consoles. Actually, that's not true because Games Pass, so that's technically like a way through that. But I still think they'll sell units. Mm-hmm. No matter what, they will sell some. They won't sell like a massive amount, but they're going to make a lot of money, and I think that they're going to make their brand a lot bigger by not focusing on a box, but instead focusing on what they can create as a company, kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. It's more of where the future in gaming goes. I think you're right, and I think they're definitely trying to think of a future aspect to it and see where where games might lead, but they might be wrong, so you never know.
Yeah, right? I could be giving them way too much credit, and it turns out that they just have no idea what they're doing. That's also super possible. So what would you say is your favorite conference? So we've talked about, like, Microsoft. I personally thought Nintendo did great. So I should preface this with saying I did not actually watch the conferences. I don't watch them because there's just too much filler shit, and I don't have time to watch all of it. It's like, okay, cool. I'm glad that Todd Howard got on stage and like said sorry for Fallout 76 or whatever. It's not necessarily something I needed to see.
Should have watched that one, man. That one Woo guy was a bit much.
There was also, I think, during Microsoft's press conference, that guy who said that Keanu Reeves was breathtaking. Yeah, and apparently he was like getting a free copy of Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
because of that. I was like, that's fucking awesome. But I don't actually watch them, and this is an issue that I have actually, is that with the exception of people doing live reactions, there is no good way to find people summarizing conferences. Like, Kind of Funny did a great job. They did like post-analysis stuff. That's awesome. I'm talking about written outlets. So IGN does a good job, but they do the like, oh, here's the big news of the conference, which might be like 3 or 4 trailers. And then they're like, okay, the little shit we don't care about, that's just like, cool, check that out as well. That kind of annoys the shit out of me. Just say, here's all the news from Microsoft's conference. That in a way is still summarizing, because you don't have to go through the nitty-gritty of seeing some dumbass on stage like talk about video games. Well, and I don't mean dumbass like they're literally dumb. That was just something dumb I said at the time. But
it's all good. We get what you mean. It's
I don't want anybody to think that I think I'm smarter than them.
It's fine. It's filler for content. It's filler. What is it?
Yeah, it's just a way to like extend their conference to meet that 2-hour mark that they for some reason needed. Obviously, they can just strain that, and the IGN takes it, perfects it, puts it in, and they're like, hey, here's a couple pages of an article. All the news is here, but instead they're like, okay, here's 4 trailers. The rest of it, you have to click again. And it's obviously a ploy to get more clicks. I hate to be that guy, but it obviously is. Because when you get to the bottom of it, it's like, okay, here's the other news that they had. It doesn't tell you anything about it. You have to click on the link, which redirects you to another IGN article, either talking about that by itself or an IGN, just like their shitty ass media player, and it's going to play me the trailer, which I'm going to tell you right now, makes me want to punch myself in the dick. I hate that media player so much. It's the worst. And I kept having to listen to the same fucking TikTok ad over and over again.
It's always good to hear you rant.
I know. I'm normally like somewhat of a positive person. I don't shit on stuff this much. I feel like this podcast is like an outlet for me to shit on things.
I know. It's weird. I feel like I'm in some weird, strange way your therapist.
Yeah, probably. I feel like podcasts are everyone's way to just vent and shit on things, if I'm being real. Like, that's what people do. But I personally, if I had to pick a winner as a conference, I would probably say it's like not having, taking it just from the news of conferences. If you're talking about game news, then like game news.
So you're just talking about the content that's in the conference that was revealed.
So I was going to break it down for a sec. If I'm talking about the amount of games shown and everything, that's obviously kind of funny, but theirs is a much different like press conference kind of thing. It's a much different showcase. If I had to choose one that had the caliber of releases, it would easily be Bethesda for me, mostly just because they had a decent amount of original IP that I cared about. I also think it was, I mean, this is just an offshoot. There was a lot of cool stuff shown at Microsoft that I'm actually very excited for, Microsoft purchasing Double Fine Studios. That's awesome. I'm super excited to see what comes of Psychonauts 2, and that way, there's no way that this does not get published now, even if Starbreeze goes under. That's amazing. It's going to come out this year. I'm guaranteeing Psychonauts 2 comes out this year.
I hope you're right, because I'd be definitely down for it.
I hope I'm right too, Josh.
I don't have enough time for all these games, but I'll make some room for Psychonauts 2.
Plus, we also get to finally play Phantasy Star Online too, which I've never played any like Phantasy Star shit. But
Phantasy Star is actually
you got
pretty
Robot
good.
Boys.
I used to play it a lot back in the day with some buddies, but it was like, what was it for? Like PlayStation
GameCube, I think,
2
or something.
Maybe PlayStation 1. I don't know. It was a long time ago, but it was pretty fun. I like it. I'm pretty excited for it. As far as conferences go, it's interesting to hear your perspective on it from like the content quality rather than the actual conference, because like I do take that.
Because I skipped all the conferences.
I mean, yeah, you skipped all the conferences. Like I do take that into consideration rather than just the games that are shown. It's kind of why I say Nintendo wins, is just because one of the things I was ranting about before is just they have a better understanding of pacing, and I think that's just because of their more or less practice with this, because they've been doing these Nintendo Directs for a while now, and I think they're getting the hang of like how they need to set up each different type of, announcement, so to speak. So I think for that reason, Nintendo is my big winner, is just because it's like they started out, although I do say they started out with a loss in my books, because I don't care about the Dragon Quest character being added to Smash.
Yeah, but you got Banjo-Kazooie.
But I got Banjo, where I was like, oh man, this is what I'm talking about. And they did it in such a good Nintendo fashion by making it Duck Hunt at the start. Am I the only one who thinks it would be really cool to get an Echo Fighter's ukulele? I'm sorry, I know that not many people like that game. I just think that would be cool. I mean, I think it would be interesting. I don't think it would work as well, just because I don't picture them with the same kind of movesets for some things, but I'm sure they could do it. But that's a totally different company, so that's like they have to get another license from that. I don't know if they want to deal with that.
Oh yeah, that's never gonna happen. It would just be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure.
I'm not holding my breath to see ukulele like Yuka and Laylee in Smash.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one day. Who knows? Maybe that'll be the 5th character. But no, I kind of lean towards Nintendo. I think Squared wasn't really doing it for me, but I'm a little biased because I really don't care about much of Square's games, other than like Octopath Traveler, which is shown, but I've already played it on the Switch, so it wasn't that big of a deal for me.
But now you can get it on PC.
I know, but I don't think so. I've already
I already played it.
I've already put like 60 hours into that game. I think I'm good. And then the other one that really like, I can't say it's the best because it's just, it doesn't have as much from a caliber from a game perspective, but man, Devolver Digital's was so unique, and I wish I would have kept up more with what they do for the past couple of years because it was very intense.
Yeah, me too. There is obviously like this interconnected narrative between each one of their press conferences. I saw the first one and I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like 2 years ago I saw it and I was like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever seen. Last year I totally skipped out on it because I was like, I'm just gonna like catch up on all the news. That was when I was like, I'm no longer gonna watch press conferences. It doesn't make any sense. But then this year I was like, oh, Devolver, like IGN's article actually had a link to the press conference itself, and it was like, oh, only 21 minutes. So I was like, why not watch it? That is so weird.
It was so weird, but it was so good. Dude, I could not stop laughing. It was so strange.
When the Carrion shows up, it just bursts through that dude's chest.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening? So good. I guess it's a good point to jump into.
Yeah, this will hop us into Devolver.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's dive a little deeper into Devolver. So from a perspective on Devolver's standpoint on E3, I wish more companies would do this because man, it was such a blast watching this. Like this definitely had an impact where from the entire time I was watching it, I was so engaged because I was like, what is fucking happening? It's such a strange story. It's a little grotesque. Like, I'm not going to lie. When I first started watching it, I was like, oh, this is kind of hard to stomach. But like, it was really good just to keep going through, and just the silliness of not only like their theatrical performance for it, but also from their perspective of what they were bringing to the table for E3. I mean, one of their games is a bootleg copy.
I fucking love that so much.
Yeah, dude. A bootleg collection of a number of their own games that are like slightly twisted with a different name to be a little different, but it's like a knockoff version of their game. I thought
I think they had Downwell as gun boots.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like shooty boots or something.
Let me see. They had Enter the Gun Dungeon, Hotline Milwaukee, Ape Out Jr., Shooty Boots, Luft Trousers 3, Absolvers, Cat Game, and Piku Niku Ball Stars.
It's so good, dude. It's bonkers. Like, it makes no sense. But it's just like, why would you do this? Just because it's a marketing ploy. Like, clearly they're just doing it to gain attraction to their name, and it's working. Like, a year ago, I did not care about Devolver Digital at all. One, they're starting to really push out a lot of games that I'm noticing I keep playing from an indie perspective, and I'm like, these are all really good. So they know which games to back, and they understand, what's good from their perspective. They have a certain style that I enjoy. But not only that, the company is really friggin' dope. Like, so weird that they would put on this whole performance in front of like it's a more serious type of, or at least has that kind of appeal of like, this is where you're going to show your games. You're going to do, that normal stage press conference. And they're just like, nope, we're going to do our own thing and just put on this crazy looking video, but we'll sneak in all of those games in between.
And they obviously all the while are taking shots at everyone.
At everyone in the conference. It was such.
They're giving everybody else shit.
The fact that they were breaking the fourth wall inside their own theatrical performance about how E3 was not even worth it, and that's why they're doing it. Was great. It's such a good way of it's a good way to kind of force what is the notion of E3 becoming. Because a lot of people go back and forth of oh, do we even need E3 anymore? Which I for sure still think we do. But does the same format need to be always a concise, some guy gets on a stage and talks about their game and shows a clip, and it just kind of keeps repeating the same process? No, it doesn't. And Devolver Digital is definitely a good representation of that.
Yeah, so just to give you guys a quick, like, TLDR bit of what actually like was shown through Devolver, we got a couple of cool games. We got Fall Guys, the Ultimate Knockout. That one's really weird. You play as like the horde of things, and you just try to survive as long as possible to see if you are the ultimate like victor.
It looks pretty cool.
Now,
I mean, I don't think it's going to be one I get, but it looks pretty fun.
I'm absolutely not going to get it, but man, that is special. Yeah. Then we've got the aforementioned Devolver Bootleg, which is only $5.
Yeah.
It's so fucking cool.
I keep going.
And I hate that it has a 1% sale on right now.
It's so troll, dude. Everything about them is so funny to me. But I keep going back and forth, and I'm like, I kind of want it. Just because I want to know how the games play.
Oh my god, dude. Seeing some of the like the bootleg version of Gato Roboto, I'm like, these games look so fucking cool.
I know.
And I hate it so much.
It's too weird. I love it.
It's so annoying. And then they had Carrion.
That's dope.
That one's special. You basically play this like they said it was a horror movie in reverse, which didn't make a whole lot of sense until you realize that you are the creature that's just like murdering people.
Yeah. It's dude, it was so perfect. Like the fact that this game comes out with, and I don't know, it fit the theme that Devolver Digital was going for like so well, and it just kept me like laughing the entire time because I was like, what is happening? And then they showed that game and I'm like, my god, what is happening?
Yeah, where they're just like talking, and then that guy like just something bursts out of his chest. And he's like, "Wow!" And then there's just this gigantic like flesh creature that's just gross. Talking pure English. And he's like, they're like, "Hey, Carrion, what's up?" Oh, just here to like show my game and everything. But it looks really interesting. I will probably buy Carrion. It looks really gross.
It looks super gross, but that's definitely going to be one of the ones I pick up.
Yeah, you basically just stalk and murder everybody. The next one we got here, which, I mean, this one, it makes me wish that I had $5,000 fucking dollars to give them.
The arcade one?
Enter the Gungeon, House of the Gunhead. It's a light gun game that you purchase for your house. It's $5,000. It is currently available for pre-order through Griffin Aerotech. It is so cool. But don't worry, there is a 6-month special financing offer. Ooh. I don't know what you'd get there, but this light gun game is so cool. Literally recently, I was like, you know what I wish we had more of? And I feel like they've just disappeared. Light gun games. I fucking love light gun games. They're so cool. I feel like I'm in the minority here, but light gun games are awesome.
Well, all you have to do is pay $5,000. I
mean, I'm going to check out this unique financing offer thing they've got here, and we'll see what's up.
I mean, I will say I do want to find that. Like, I want to find some local arcades around me a little bit after that comes out to see if anyone picks it up.
If anyone in my region picks this up, I'll go there continually. I don't give a shit. I will pay so much money. I'd probably spend $5,000 playing this fucking game.
Yeah.
This game looks so cool. I love the art style of Enter the Gungeon, and this is just so perfect. Yeah. Plus, I'm terrible at fucking video games.
So you'll spend all your money.
This lets me this one lets me experience the world without having to like deal with the hindrance of actually playing a harder game. Yeah. Light gun games, for the most part, are pretty easy because you just like shoot and then you shoot off screen. It's not that hard.
Yeah,
especially with a friend.
By the end of this, you might end up spending $5,000 in quarters.
Yeah, that's my plan, is to do that, and then I'll just be like, hey, how about you just give me the machine, dude? I mean, I pretty much paid for it.
I bought the whole thing. That was the 6-month plan, right?
And then ending out the little bit they had, not literally, because they had an interesting end, but then we got one of Josh's predictions for E3, which is the Messenger Picnic Panic got a release date. It's coming out July 11th, 2019. Are you stoked for this? It's a free DLC. Anybody that owns a Messenger, just download
So
it.
stoked, dude. It's a month away. I get to play more Messenger. I friggin' love this game. It was so good, man. And I can't wait to get back into it.
I honestly somewhat expected this to be like a day and date thing, just like we expected Candace of Hyrule. How big of it is it? Like, how much of a dick punch is it?
Yeah, why
that
did
Candace
they do
of
that 2
Hyrule
days
was
later?
like 2 days later.
I was so, yeah, I like saw that and it was like June 13th. And I was like, wait. And I like looked, I was like, is today June 13th? And I was like, what? It's 2 days away. Why would they do that?
Yeah, I find that so funny. Yeah, the easiest way to say it is that it's a dick punch.
Yeah, I don't understand. I was so confused. I was like, okay, like, I mean, I'm still probably gonna get it, but like, why then? Like, I don't know.
I mean, you needed those 2 days, I guess.
I guess it's just too much hype. You gotta cool down.
Yeah, play it on
bit.
Thursday. Oh, maybe they just wanted to keep eyes off of it until after they had done their like direct and then their treehouse.
Treehouse thing, maybe. Yeah, I guess that makes.
I doubt
a
it,
little bit of sense.
maybe.
But like, I don't know. Like, why? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But then, of course, Devolver ends out its press conference by having an homage to fucking Terminator, of all things. Why is everyone so fucking obsessed with Terminator in this E3?
Yeah, dude,
There's like
every,
three
like-
different fucking things for Terminator.
Every conference had like a Terminator reference. It's kind of strange. Yeah, I don't know why it's like popping back up out of nowhere.
I mean, there's the new Terminator movie coming out, but Terminator should not have this much clout at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening with Terminator that it shows up in like 2 to 3 different conferences?
I don't know, man. It's a big thing. People really like it.
Apparently. But Devolver, great conference.
Oh yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I do like that they actually, IGN gave a little bit of a shout out to the Kind of Funny Games showcase when they talked about them actually revealing the Messenger Picnic Panic.
Nice.
In their showcase, they announced a lot of really cool stuff, so I'm going to move over to the showcase now. What did you think, just real quick, what did you think of the showcase itself? It's like pacing and everything. How did you feel about it this year, this time versus when they did it technically like last year?
Yeah. I think it was a little different this year for me. I wasn't as excited about it, to be honest. I think, though, that really comes with the fact that they're kind of facing off against a lot of heavy hitters at the same time, whereas the initial time it was like, wow, out of nowhere, this, just a ton of indie games get referenced, which, is fine. But one of the big things about E3 is it's really easy to get lost in, like, the midst of things because there's just so much happening. So maybe that's kind of why. I think from a pacing perspective, they did pretty well. I like how they do a lot of kind of subsection games of like, here's the VR games, here's the, out to play today games. Like, I do enjoy the way they're categorizing it. I do feel that this one was rushed a little bit more, which I think makes sense because it probably was. But I think from an overall perspective...
I mean, they do make an awesome joke about that at the beginning.
Yeah.
And, like, throughout the entire thing, they make a joke about how rushed it is.
Yeah. And that's fine. Like, I get it. But in comparison to, like, the first one, I think the first one was a little bit better. And I also, not to knock any games in this, but I also felt like I was more excited about a lot more in the first one. But then again, there's still a lot of really good games in the showcase that was revealed. I think overall it was pretty damn good, though.
Yeah, there are a decent amount of things that I was hoping for in this, and I feel like the reason that this one is a little bit more underwhelming is because they didn't have those, like, big name releases. They weren't even teasing them. They're like, hey, these are indie games. That's what we're showing. It's 60 different indie games. That's all you're going to get. They didn't have like a Judgment release, like a Judgment announcement. They didn't do any of that. They're just like, hey, this is what we set out to do. And I think they did a great job. I definitely do feel like it felt rushed. It was nice that they like had the joke about it, but I agree with you that it actually did just physically feel rushed. I thought it was weird that at certain times, like during the showcase, they actually had it to where like at some points that they would just show like the trailer. At other times they would show the trailer and talk over it and give like their press release. I thought that was a little weird. I was like, why are you guys only doing this sometimes?
Yeah, I don't know, and I think that might be just a developer, preference of maybe they didn't have something at the time and they're trying to get work on things. I'm not really too sure, because it is kind of strange. I feel like it did. But I don't know, because at the same time, I'm not like against it, because it did break up the monotony of, if it would have been just 60 straight trailers, it's like, okay, well that's great, but it's just the same thing, in a loop. So I'm not against it, but I do wonder why certain games got that over others.
Yeah, it is a little weird. It's like I just kind of want to know why. Mm-hmm. It's weird, but they showed a lot of really great indie games, pulled my focus to a lot of great indie games that I actually did not know existed.
Yeah,
which I follow a dickload of indie games on Twitter. It's
that's
excessive.
A big number, huh?
Yeah, it's a metric dickload.
A metric dickload.
I follow.
Oh, wow, that's even bigger than I thought.
Yeah, dude, I got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of these games. I was like, this game is fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I have to check it out.
There was a number of times during the direct where I was like, oh, gotta remember this, and I went to Twitter to find the people that make it and follow them so I could find it later. I was like, this looks cool. I gotta find them on Twitter.
Yeah, when I was making my list of all the games, I made sure to highlight the ones I liked the most.
Mm-hmm. And
I was like, I need to remember this game.
And, not to toot our own horn, but Fling to the Finish was in there.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I actually think I highlighted that. I thought that was so funny that Fling to the Finish was in there. I was like, we literally talked about this like last fucking week.
I know.
This is awesome.
Psychic Boys.
Seriously, though, if there's a t-shirt made, it needs to be Psychic Boys.
Psychic Boys.
We are now the Psychic Boys. This will go on for the rest of time. We are the Psychic Boys. If any fan out there, if we have fans, which I know we do, we're just the biggest indie games podcast on earth, they need to make us just like a logo of the Psychic Boys. Feel free to tweet it at me, at Hyde Legion. If anybody does it, so shit my pants. I'm not even joking. If it happens, I'll lose my shit. Doubt it ever will. But man, I want a Psychic Boys t-shirt.
That'd be pretty dope.
That would be amazing.
But yeah, no, I was super excited when I saw Fling to the Finish. I was like, oh, yes. And I then looked quickly, and they did meet the Kickstarter goal. So I was like, all right, cool. It is actually coming.
I felt like there was almost no way they didn't.
I mean, yeah, like, they were pretty damn close to it.
So close. And that game is so fucking cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty...
So, did you, did you glean, like, a bunch of awesome games out of this, just like I did? Did you find a bunch?
I did. So, I'll rattle off some of the ones that were exceptionally interesting to me. The first one is Superliminal, which was friggin' weird. It reminds me of a Stanley Parable, and
oh yeah, where it does the
Anti-Chamber.
trailer within a trailer.
Yeah. It reminds me of like Stanley Parable and Anti-Chamber kind of matched together. I don't know if you ever play Anti-Chamber, but it's a very like wonky puzzle / kind of like mind melting game of just weird stuff. But it looks super interesting, and I love games that do that. I don't know, it really makes you think, and it seems like it'll also have that weird kind of Stanley Parable like story behind it that's just a little odd. I'm super excited for it. I immediately reached out to them and was like, yo, when is this? When am I getting this? But I also really enjoyed Looking for Heals. Yeah,
that one looks awesome.
As an individual who always plays support classes and healing classes in any group, this is definitely my kind of game. I'm a little hesitant on if this is going to be a game I love just because of how it's played, but it definitely looks like an interesting take on a game of just being the healer and trying to keep people alive. So I'm definitely for it. I definitely want to see more of it. Another one was Trigger Witch, which looked very... it's not like anything that's groundbreaking, but it just looked like it's very interesting because it has a very like old school Zelda, like colored Zelda vibe to it, but you're a witch with like machine guns for some reason.
Yeah, it's a twin stick shooter.
So I was like, oh, okay, I'd play that. Like, I don't know, it just looks very different but the same at the same time, kind of, if that makes any sense. I don't know, it just looks really interesting. I guess I'll go with one more, which was, it's kind of like a joke pick, but it just made me laugh really hard, and I hope someone I know gets it. I don't think I'll ever get it, but I would love to try
I hope
it.
Someone I know gets it.
Yeah, it's the ramen one.
Which one is that one?
Okay, so
oh my god, it's just fucking naked dudes.
Naked dudes who are like throwing food at each other.
Yeah, that's the thing I love so much about the Kind of Funny Games Showcase. Both of them is how they like interconnected the culture around Kind of Funny and like the best friends and everything and the humor. When Nick pops in and he's like, "Hey guys,
It's time to get
you want to get weird?" And they're like, "Nick, go away." I thought he wasn't gonna come this time. He's like, "Let's get weird," and the screen does the shimmering thing. The first one that pops up is naked dudes throwing food at each other. I was like, "What the fuck? This is so amazing."
It looks so funny. It's definitely not going to be something I'll get, but I would love to play it.
I love it. It's definitely not gonna be something I get.
It seems more of like a good party game for like one or two times, but I can't see myself playing with a bunch of naked men flinging food at each other for a long time.
So for me, I got like a bunch of different games. I didn't actually have like 3. I just was like, that game's awesome. That game's awesome. Spoiler alert, a lot of them have pixel art. Not that hard.
Oh,
like
really?
90% of this
Would've
fucking
thought.
showcase was pixel art, and it's awesome. I loved it so much. So Renane was one of them. It was the like 2D platformer action RPG where you play as like the little golden knight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that did look interesting.
Yeah, that one's so awesome. I have it like pulled up on Steam. Its planned release date is 2019. I hope it comes out in 2019. It would be so fucking cool because this game looks awesome. Mm-hmm. I love the pixel art. The world looks awesome. I just pretty much love everything about it. I'm probably gonna suck at it if I'm being honest, but it's gonna be cool. The next game I have there is Police Stories.
Oh, that looked interesting too. That's the one where you were like barging into places, right?
Yeah, you're basically like, you're meant to be more tactical about it. So you have to, it's like Hotline Miami, but you have to utilize like tactical gear, like flashbangs and stuff like that, because you can die, they can die really easily. It's all about trying to outsmart NPCs like by yourself or in co-op.
Oh,
I think that's so fucking cool.
We could find a co-op game for us now.
Yeah, but it's got to be like the best game, dude.
That's right.
It's got to be the best game, so then we both just die.
I forgot. Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. Maybe fling to the finish.
Maybe.
Fling to the finish.
I'd be excited for that.
Yeah, that one's pretty awesome. The next one I got is Astalon Tears of the Earth. This one looked really, really cool. You play as like 3 different explorers, each with their own like abilities. It looks a lot like old school Castlevania.
Yeah, it did look interesting.
Yeah, but of course it's like more 16-bit. Mm-hmm. I really like its art style.
Yeah, I don't know if I could get into that kind of game because it has one of the reasons why I could never really get into some of the older Castlevanias is I don't like that gameplay style where you feel so heavy, where you're like walking and you'll like jump and you'll move like an inch and then something hits you and you like move back, and it's just, I don't know, the gameplay as far as pacing is just way too slow for me. But I did agree when I saw it. I was like, wow, this looks really cool. I don't think I could handle the mechanics in a sense of me being okay with playing like that.
Yeah, it looks like, I agree. It looks pretty clunky and pretty weird. Mm-hmm. I'm very excited for it, but me getting it day one, depending on the releases that are around it, because this one is also a possible 2019, but they don't have a solid release date, is entirely dependent on what comes around it. So if this comes out when, like, fucking Psychonauts 2 does, not going to happen. There's no way. I mean, most games, if it comes out next to Psychonauts 2, I'm not going to play it. But, like, pretty much anything put up against this, like, let's say Rain and Astalon come out at the same time, or Renane. I really hate that name. It's weird. I will get Renane instead, especially because I like to just have one character, which is a weird thing, but I like to just play as one character, just going through, seeing this character's journey versus 3 different characters. This is also an issue that I have with, like, JRPGs, where JRPGs typically include
you must
a
have
team
hated
of
Octopath.
Adventurers. I haven't played Octopath Traveler. Yeah, there's like fucking 12 people. What the shit is that?
Octopath.
Yeah, there's just but it's excessive. The next one is kind of like, it's kind of out there mostly because I don't play romance games, but Half Past Fate looks really, really good. I love its like 16-bit art style. It's like the romantic narrative adventure, and it looks really, really cool. Yeah, it's on its Steam page. It says Half Past Fate is a romantic narrative adventure game about 3 relationships that form either over the span of 8 hours or 8 years.
Oh, Jesus. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I kind of remember this one. I don't know. This definitely is not for me. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
It's gonna be something. It's again gonna be something that's entirely dependent on when it comes out, release date wise. Because this one, also 2019, but I could see this becoming like an amazing game. I think I've said on this podcast, I'm obsessed with romance stuff. I'm not a romantic. I'm not romantic at all.
Right, you're a romantic fanatic.
Yeah, basically, I'm a fan of romance, but I'm not romantic at all. And I honestly, if this comes out in kind of like maybe like some sparse release dates, like this could come out next to like, I was going to say Gears 5, but I like Gears way too much. There's no way. Like, this has to come out at a time where I'm almost playing nothing else. Like, and I will purchase this game. If it's like a $20 game, I'll buy it. Like, it looks really interesting, and I like it a lot. The next one I've got is Foregone. Foregone looks really, really cool. It's like the 2D like platforming action adventure. It says Foregone is a combat-focused action platformer combining the challenging gameplay of Diablo and Dark Souls with fluid pixel animation, popularized by Dead Cells. I've never heard that Diablo is a hard game, by the way. I've played a decent amount of Diablo.
It's not. I mean,
saying Diablo is difficult is a little stretching.
Old school Diablo was, but Diablo 3 is not. Diablo 3 used to be harder, though, when it first came out, but now they really dumbed it down. But, like, the original and Diablo 2, like, it can be pretty challenging for people who aren't, like, into the type of series. This game, honestly, though, Foregone, it really just reminded me of slower Dead Cells. Yeah, I, like, looking at it a second time, it still looks really, really good, and I want to play it, but this one is, I'm going to wait for a sale. There's no way I'm paying full price for this game. Like, it looks good. I probably won't play it for like 4 years, if we're being real. Like, this will be something that I find on a sale on PSN for $2, and I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Maybe I'll buy that. Yeah.
That's like the only way I'll play it.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be fun. It's just the pacing is definitely a lot slower, and with that style, I would just want to play more Dead Cells.
Yeah, because Dead Cells has that really fast, like, frantic combat versus this one. You're right, it does seem a little bit slower.
Yeah, which is fine. Agree. It's definitely, there's going to be people who are more into that because Dead Cells is a little chaotic and can be a bit much, but I just enjoy that more, so. Yeah,
the next one I have on here is Relic Hunter's Legend. I thought that one's really cool. It's a 4-player. It has 4-player online co-op. It's fast, fluid, fun, free, and online cooperative shooter slash looter slash RPG. Gather up to 4 friends, gear up, and save the galaxy from a terrible villain who has stolen the past. This game, I absolutely love its art style.
Yeah.
Its world looks really, really fun. I like that it has like this weird whimsical style. You're like shooting up ducks for some reason. It looks really, really fun. I'm not a big, we both know, I'm not a big cooperative guy.
I know.
So if we're being honest, I'll play this by myself. But it is a tribute to how cool this game looks that I will actually even think about playing it.
Ooh.
Because, yeah, I think it looks that cool. Plus, from far away, the guys look kind of like bird people. I like me some bird people, as I've said several times on the podcast.
Yeah, I definitely think the appeal is the art style. Like it doesn't look like anything that's different than other games in this type of genre, but the art style is super cute, and it does look like it could be fun from a like co-op perspective.
Yeah, the last game I have on here is, and I know I had a lot, but
There's a lot of good games.
They had a lot of awesome games here. Is Warborn. It's take command of a mech strike force. Warborn is a turn-based strategy game where players command an army of mecha and clash with the enemy in intense tactical battles. This one, I love me some robot boys, dude. I love mechs. They're my fucking jam. If there's a thing with mechs in it, I'm probably into it. With, surprisingly, the exception of Gundam. Which is
Really?
like
That's like the mech thing.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I'm gonna watch Iron Blood Orphans because I've heard it's really, really good. And I can watch it on Hulu, which is nice because Funimation hogs all my internet for some reason, and it's fucking terrible. I love Funimation as an app, but it's so excessive. It's annoying. But yes, I love mechs. And I'm very excited to play this game. I love its art style. I love robots. I'm not a huge turn-based RPG guy, so I don't know this one probably I won't pick it up immediately, or if I do, I'm not going to play it for a while. This one just has a coming soon release date, which is kind of nice. Just because it's not coming in 2019 like every other indie game that I talked about so far. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited for this one, but it's definitely going to be it's one that I'm going to keep my eye on because I like the world and its art style, but it probably won't be one I make sure I play at launch kind of a thing.
Yeah, I get that.
Versus Renane, which looks fucking sweet. It looks awesome.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's tough, man. There's 60 games. You can't play every single one of them. They're all coming out around the same time. It's
I definitely won't play every single one of them. I'm not going to play that ramen game.
You're going to play it. I'm going to find someone who bought it, and I'm going to make you play it with me.
It looks so weird.
I know.
But I guess that's why they got weird, you know what I mean?
That's the appeal. Everybody's got to get weird sometimes.
So I personally would say, do you have any more stuff that you want to talk about? The Kind of Funny Games Showcase, Devolver, any more E3 talk?
I think we covered a good amount. I mean, overall, like I said, I think this E3 was not the most hype that it's been in past years, but I still think it was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a very, very good E3. I enjoyed it as well. We actually have a decent amount more time, so now I think this week of all weeks, we have been blessed with so many amazing indie games that we actually need to give back to the creators. So now we're going to hop in to our last segment of this week's podcast, which is God Bless the Crowd. This is where Josh hops into all sorts of different crowdfunding sites. This one, it's Fig, guys. Normally, it's mostly Kickstarter. This time, we got a Fig. This is where Josh hops into all sorts of different Kickstarters, brings some amazing indie games for us to talk about, because if we're being honest, I don't know how any of these works. Fig, I still don't know how to find it. I'm looking at this website right now, still don't get it. The Kickstarter is excessively hard to navigate. I don't know why. You'd think they'd streamline it, but why not just have board games mixed with video games mixed with video game magazines? That just checks out, I would think.
You know what's actually funny about that is they really should curate that a little bit better, because in the past, metrics have shown that games, like video games, is probably their only like positive percentage of really high money making campaigns in the past.
Yeah, I believe it. The rest are fucking magazines.
Something of that nature. but there's a lot of issues with crowdfunding sites lately, but that's one of the areas that they're doing well in.
Yeah, however much we might say that like PlayStation Store, Microsoft Store, Nintendo Store, all of these shops are overpopulated and have an issue with curation, they've got nothing on Kickstarter, dude. That is a shit show. It's excessive. But this week on God Bless the Crowd, we have Unexplored 2, The Wayfarer's Legacy, over on Fig. And then we've got Small Saga, a turn-based RPG from a mouse eye perspective, over on Kickstarter. This is a week that Josh fucking picked just chef kiss games. These are awesome. I'm telling you right now, Big Josh boy, you've got a talent, at least this week. Some weeks, they suck. Okay?
All right. Thanks. You're very, very encouraging.
This week, you did a good job, big boy. You did a good job, Big Josh boy. So, first I want to talk about Unexplored 2, The Wayfarer's Legacy. This game is 47% to its milestone?
So this is okay. So with Fig, this is one of their new open access beta pitches. So unlike Kickstarter, what they do is no matter what, this game is going to be created, and it's technically in like an early alpha right now. So the way it works is they're going based on a milestone perspective. And what happens is they're going to take your money no matter what, because what they're giving you is an early access release to the game, as well as the eventual game once it's finished. Now, depending on how much money they make from those milestones, they'll then proceed to make additional aspects to the game, or in this case, which is very different and a little confusing to me, for Unexplored, they're actually doing milestones that hit things inside the alpha game, like little quests, not really quests, but like challenges for people to go into the game, do, and then they potentially win something and get to be a part of the lore in the game. So it's building a community with these milestones, which is a much different approach, but is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, so what's happening now is they've already hit one of the milestones, but they're now at 47% to the next one. So if you go to the roadmap of this Fig page, what you'll see is we're working towards milestone 2, which is the in-game safari, or the Big Five. And the main thing of this is they release a special build that features 5 large new creatures, and you have to find them and then take screenshots and post them into their Discord channel, so that you can then, if you're like one of the first, you get put in as a person who gets to create the lore with them.
That's so fucking cool. I did not know that that's what this was. Josh, you picked a way cooler video game this time. I'm legitimately impressed. This game is so fucking cool. Now, this is before the sweet roadmap stuff. The game itself is really, really interesting. I initially came at it with a skeptical eye because of some of the language that they used, where they said, like, I think it was that they had featuring a unique legacy system. And I saw legacy system, and I knew it was a roguelike, and I was like, is this just going to be Rogue Legacy? Like in 3D? Is that what this is going to be? Like, oh my god. And then you go down, and you realize it's not that at all. It's actually much more accessible. It actually turns out that their legacy system is actually when you die, you get to choose whether or not your character... Like, you choose a new character no matter what. Mm-hmm. The legacy is not the character that you choose, like in Rogue Legacy. It's the world itself. So you can then replay through that world, which is so cool. And an amount of time has passed since your last character died. So the world has changed. So the example they use is like if you come upon a town and they're having issues with wolves and you go kill those wolves, the next character when you come through, this town might possibly be thriving and you could buy some amazing new equipment. Or if you did not kill those wolves, you could then come upon this town and it be deserted and there's no equipment. That is so fucking cool. Of course, they have it to where like not only is this kind of an accessibility feature where you can play through and you still know the world, versus most roguelikes have like, it's not a perpetual map. You have to start off not only with, in some senses, a new character, but also like new weapons and everything. This one has it to where you play through the same world. You can go get this legendary item, whatever, that you knew was there already. But it also consistently gets harder the more and more you play through it, because this empire comes through and takes over more and more of this territory. So there's just so much cool stuff happening in this game, let alone that sweet-ass roadmap.
Yeah, see? Yeah, it's very interesting because the game, from a general perspective, looks actually really interesting. I really enjoy the art style. It's a top-down, but the world is very unique in the way that they do shading for this, as far as the artwork goes. The combat looks a little bit weird just because it is very slow, in a sense of like, it looks like you don't have much range with your attacks, but I'm sure there's other weapons, there's other things that you get later on. This is just one brief example when he's fighting like a couple bad guys on a weird cliff or something like that. But also just a lot of that background information that you already talked about kind of makes me more excited about it anyway, though, just because it has such a unique system from the actual groundwork of it. The one thing that does still confuse me is what I explained to you as far as the roadmap, because it's more of milestones in the game. Usually you would have more milestones to what the game gets afterwards. It doesn't look like they're doing much of that. Like, usually you'd have milestones where it's like, oh, we get this amount of money, now we're going to put it on Switch, or now we're going to release it with an extra XYZ amount of content. It doesn't look like they're doing that as much as they're making it more worth your while to be part of the alpha initiative beforehand. And as you grow a community, that will push you to be more involved with it and to build the game itself, which is obviously a different approach. But at the same time, I kind of like it because it definitely gets you involved and builds out the community of who's playing and trying to see those different experiences. Because if this is something where, you know, it's so unique, where you kill that group of wolves and then the town prospers, you'd have two totally different stories from the same person who had done that, from someone who had killed the wolves for someone who had been killed by the wolves, and vice versa for, you know, any different culmination of possibilities throughout the story and the world. So it is very interesting to see how that goes. I want to definitely watch this and see how much money they make from these milestones, to see if it's a worthwhile campaign in that, rather than having it as a normal structure of, you give, you know, the more we get, the more we put into the content.
So I'm really glad that last week we had JJ from the Coalition on. If you guys haven't listened to that one, I would recommend it, because we have, for the most part, a really like interesting discussion about like Kickstarter crowdfunding, and then we talk about like indie games in general, our favorite indie games, stuff like that. But we had a conversation about like you actually getting something from doing Kickstarters and you actually getting a return. This game, I feel like, really, really did something special with you actually getting something for being a backer that wasn't going to come like down the road. So it's not like, oh, when this game comes out, you're going to get this physical item or whatever. Instead, they really incentivize you to give them money now. They're like, give us money now. Not only are you going to have an immediate return with being able to actually play this game now, but you also get to affect the world in a much bigger way than just like, oh, you get to make a boss. Instead, you literally get to be part of the world itself and the lore, the stories of this world, being like a self-proclaimed lore hound, being somebody who absolutely loves the lore of video games in general, let alone indie games. This is so special and so cool. It almost never happens unless you're like a big fan that's going to die or something like that you actually get to be put in, like, you get to be immortalized in a video game without having to pay like a ridiculous amount for it.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Obviously, this isn't going to work for like every type of game that's being crowdfunded, because you have to be in a good state already to have that alpha and to be able to have someone who's, you know, funding you in a sense. Like it seems like with Fig, kind of a partnership in that way, and you also try to bring on people who are investing in it to keep the funding going regardless. So I don't think this is obviously going to apply to every single one of the games and be a model that everyone can see and go forward towards, but I do think that it is a really interesting opportunity, and I feel like this is why, a lot of Fig backings could succeed and be something big if they have, the right kind of marketing strategy and the right kind of mechanisms to actually build that community and infrastructure inside their game.
Yeah, I feel like when you saying that like this isn't going to work for everybody, I feel like for the most part, that's not just about the games. I don't think that this could happen really anywhere other than Fig.
Yeah.
Like doing this kind of a thing on Kickstarter wouldn't really work because it's like, I don't know. One, Kickstarter has kind of a bad rep. Let's be real. Like we talk about Kickstarter all the time, but like even we know that it has issues. Like I literally just shat on it a little while ago. And there are also people who just take your money. Fig is really, really cool. I don't see that this is not going to like really become a big model for crowdfunding in video games, but it's really, really cool. And I think every now and then we're going to see a video game that is going to be like this, and it's going to be really special when it happens. But yeah, like you said, it's not going to happen in every game, and it's definitely not going to happen on any crowdfunding site. I honestly think Fig is the only place that this really works.
Yeah. I mean, you could be very right about that. It just depends on really the platform itself, if they want to mold, their model into something different. But right now it seems like that's what Fig is going for. So, I mean, good on them and good on Unexplored too. Like, I definitely think this is interesting. It's one of my potential backings that I'm considering. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I should say this one, you got to pay $25 to get a copy of the game. You get a digital copy of the game on release, immediate access to pre-alpha early test scenario through Discord, regular alpha and beta updates during the development through Discord, Fig backer role on our Discord server, and you get the name in the credits of the final game. Then you also... So are there only the 2 tiers on this one?
Yeah, there's only 2 tiers.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I was covering all my bases.
Yep.
The second tier is $45, is the legacy tier. You get all the Wayfarer tier items, digital original soundtrack, a digital art book, digital wallpaper, a digital copy of the Unexplored 1 on Steam PC, and you get VIP backer role on the Discord server, special backer in-game items, and your name in the credits of the final game. I feel like this game seems really, really cool. $25 might seem expensive, but being able to get in on this right now, I honestly would say is so worth it. This is the first time that I've, and it's kind of weird because I really like a lot of the games we talk about, but now knowing how the roadmap is in this game, this is the first game that I've legitimately looked at, and I was like, fuck, I have to back this game. Like, there's no way that I will not back this game. It's so cool.
Well, I'm glad
like that lore bit is so special. Yeah, you definitely picked a winner. I don't want to harp on this game too much. We also have another game, Small Saga, to talk about, so let's hop it over to that one. Unless you have any final bits to say about the Unexplored 2.
No, I think I'm good. Let's hop to the next one.
Awesome. Small Saga. What manner of vermin lurks beneath our feet, an RPG of miniature proportions? They are currently asking for $41,970. I say they, but it's actually only one guy, which is really cool. It has 476 backers, 21 days left to go. I personally think this will get backed. It's a really special and awesome game. I really, really like it. Its pixel art looks really beautiful. The concept itself is really fun. I've always had this idea stuck in the back of my head, like if mice and small creatures had their own little world, which has obviously been shown through what is it? They had, I think it was Redwall when we were kids, that it was like a kids cartoon about mice like warriors and stuff like that in medieval times.
I don't remember.
It was
that
odd.
One. I do remember Feifel though.
Yeah, Feifel goes west, dude. You could give him the lazy eye.
Yeah, there are no cats in America.
So to get in ground floor on this one and you want the game, it is only $13, which is pretty inexpensive.
That's true.
Considering.
Yeah.
Some games, excessive.
I mean, yeah, it depends. You also need to think about like what the game is in comparison. But from what I'm seeing, at least from the trailer, it actually does look pretty interesting. It's obviously a game where if RPGs aren't your thing, like turn-based combat isn't your thing, you probably don't want this. But for those that do, it seems pretty interesting. It looks like a very, old school kind of retro game, but the art style to it is really nice. I like how it kind of looks. It kind of looks. God, what's a good way to describe this? It's like realistic, but not at the same time in a way in certain areas. Like the background looks much more painted in comparison to the foreground of the actual characters. And the weird like 3D style of it looks really interesting, the way it pans in and out when they're fighting the enemies. So I'm interested to see more of what this game looks like from a perspective of just a visual aspect. But the gameplay looks interesting. It's you basically walking through kind of like you would see in a normal like RPG creator game, but it just looks much nicer. But really where it shines, I think, is just the enemies and the actual world around you, the objects that they're using. Like the fact that your mice in this game alludes to they're not going to have, a giant sword or a gun. So they're using regular like household items, or sometimes not household, but just items that we would think in the real world as normal sized objects for us. But you're looking at a mouse who has a scalpel as his weapon. You're looking at a mouse who has a lighter as their weapon. Like one has a shaved out pencil with holes in it because it looks like it's using it as a flute. Like there's a lot of weird creativity in the style and mannerism of all of the different character design and items that they're using. So I really enjoy that aspect to it because it does allude to, this is a what if scenario of, if these animals did have this type of lifestyle outside of what we see, so to speak. So it's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, the only issue that I have with this, one, I would like to say, Saban, I think is his name. He's the pyromancer. He's actually a mole. Not a mouse. Yeah, he's a mole with a lighter. And I like how he's a pyromancer. He's like a mage essentially, but he just has a lighter.
Like that, but that's what I'm saying is it's so
yeah, it's really interesting.
It's so
special.
Cute and creative in the way they're doing that, because obviously we can't have. I mean, it's kind of strange because if we could have moles that are walking around and presumably talking, they obviously can't do magic either. Like that's too much.
The only real issue I have is that, so you've got the mole with the lighter, you've got the squirrel with the pencil flute
thing.
Yeah, you have Gwen, who is she's the female mouse that's like the spear user, but it's a scalpel. But then you have fucking Lance, who's a sharpshooter who just has a bow. It's just a bow. I understand it's probably a toothpick, but it's just the most boring bow I've ever seen.
Yeah, a little bit. But
that's honestly the only issue I have with this game is that bow.
I mean, what are you going to do? Maybe they'll change it. Who knows? If he gets enough money.
Maybe he'll change it to a flosser or just something else. Like initially I was like, oh, I guess Bruce, the Harlequin, the bard, he just has a flute, and then I realized it was a pencil, and I was like, fuck, that's cool.
Yeah. No, it's
awesome. It's
definitely very interesting, and I like how the main character has the Swiss Army knife. I like how it's like way too big for him too.
Yeah, I love that it already has a little bit of lore in it, because these like human items that they call them god tools. I find that really, really interesting. The entire story of this is you actually play what's the main character's name? I totally forgot. It doesn't really matter. You play this mouse his name is Verm. Verm basically, in a way, battles a god who's it's just an exterminator, if we're being real. He plays the god of death, who cuts off his tail, and he's trying to track him down and take his tail back. You're not really going to get, I don't know how you're going to reattach your tail, but...
I don't know, maybe...
All right.
He's the...
That checks out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they'll find some tape. That'll be good as
Maybe.
new.
Yeah, I do love that. I personally am a big fan of the Berserk anime. So I love that the creator actually took. He really he made this game thinking of Berserk and games like Golden Sun and animations like The Secret of Nim. He brought a lot of the things that I really love into making this kind of like super weird little RPG, and I'm super in, dude. I'm so in. This game looks awesome. I've been following him on Twitter for a while and following Small Saga. And last week when they initially put this up, I was going to tell you that we needed to do this on God Bless the Crowd. And then I forgot. And turns out next week we got it on God Bless the Crowd, baby.
I'm watching. You know what?
You know what's up.
I know. You know what makes me nervous about this, though? So
The toothpick bow?
no. The fact that they're at a reasonable amount. They have 21 days to go, and they're at 14,000 of the 41,000, right? Seems
Are
like...
you going to say there's several of them no longer available rewards?
Yeah. So the way they set up this, and I think they could have made it, but they have like no big pledges left. All of their design an NPC, all of their, design a boss, those things of like the higher tiers are gone, which leaves them at what most people will probably pick is the lower tier for the game, which is going to be £10, I believe that is, or $13. So $13 they would need, $13 times as many gets you to like almost 30K, a little bit less. It's kind of a lot of people you need.
Yeah, it is a little weird. So they had their 127 one where you design an NPC. They only had 15 of those. They only had 5 of the designing a quest giving NPC, and they only had 3 of the designing a boss. So that is excessive. That's excessively small.
Yeah.
I mean, considering that this is only being made by one guy, I guess I totally understand, even though the entire purpose of Kickstarter is to give you money to kind of build up, ramp up your production so he could hire more people to help.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand, but I also don't. Yeah, you bring up a good point. It might be hard to hit this just because he only has the lower tiers.
Yeah. And granted, that makes sense, but then he possibly should have put that lower tier a little bit higher, or maybe made that goal a little bit less, which it sucks because if you need that goal, that's kind of what you need. But realistically, I don't know if he'll be able to make that unless a ton of people see this and they all want to put their money in. It's gonna need a lot of people to back it at the tiers that are left at this point.
Yeah, that's very true. I think it'll hit it. It does kind of suck that there's only the $13, $23, and $51 tiers left. Mm-hmm. A decent amount of people have gone for them, so it seems like there is demand. Mm-hmm. But like you said, I definitely do wish that there was just more. There was a couple other tiers that maybe a much higher tier that gave you physical goodies, or just some random art books or whatever in lower tiers, kind of a thing. Just really start to incentivize people, because I really hope this game gets backed.
Yeah,
because it's really special and it's really, really cool.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. I hope it makes it. We'll see.
So do I. Yes, we will definitely see. But that's about the end of this podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening to us rant, or really just me rant for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Good times.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, like I said, this podcast is just entirely me venting.
Just a therapeutic experience for all of us.
Yes, Josh is my therapist, and we're just broadcasting it all over the world. It's nice.
Yeah, no license.
Well, that's why you do it over the internet. They can't catch you.
Yeah. I don't
as
think
far
that's
as I
true.
know, you live in Venezuela where there's no extradition. You're fine.
Oh, is that how it works? I don't remember.
I don't know.
I don't remember living there, but okay.
I'm not a businessman. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I don't think business has anything to do with it. But I guess.
Thank you guys so much for listening. You guys can follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at Hyde Legion. Make sure to tweet me those Psychic Boys.
Oh,
shirt
yeah.
ideas.
If anyone has any of our fans or artistes, give us some nice pictures.
I'll literally die. If anybody does it, I'll die. You can follow Josh at _George90. Make sure to check out all their written content over on parallaxmedia.one. Did a lot of really cool E3 stuff. I'm assuming you guys are going to post the live reactions to YouTube.
Yeah, I would assume so as well. I know they're on the Parallax Media Twitch right now, but we're from my understanding, I think doing a best moments kind of video. So just keep your eyes peeled for that.
Nice. Well, make sure if you guys want to see their reactions to the conferences, make sure you go over to Parallax Media's Twitch channel and keep an eye out for all those awesome videos going up on the YouTube channel. I mean, make sure to subscribe there because that's also how you're going to get this podcast on YouTube. But you can, of course, find it also over on Spotify. You can find it on Google Podcasts, iTunes, all sorts of awesome places. That's it for us this week. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.